And you're live.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to the June meeting of the Maritime Advisory Board for the City of Annapolis. First of all, let me apologize for the late posting of the agenda. I just didn't, frankly, it didn't click to me that this early in the month that we had a meeting yet. So I apologize. I think it probably did get posted, and we will go through it. But as I usually do, I go around the screen and just identify everyone. We have Kimberly Consoli, who is our reporter. We have Andy Fagley, who's a member. We have Jake Iverson, who is a regular attendee. Debbie Goslin, who's a member. Stephen Rice from the City of Annapolis. Rick Nelson from who's a member. We have, I missed Frida. Frida, there you are. Frida Wildy, a member. And we have Duncan Hood, member. And we have Madeline Harrell, who is our COA TV, City of Annapolis TV guru. So with that, I'll take up a preliminary matter. I saw Beth earlier. I don't see her now, so I guess we won't take that up yet. We have, Kimberly sent the minutes from May. Was there any additions, corrections, changes in May? And if not, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Mr. Hood has moved to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Ms. Goslin?
Second. Yep.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. The MIAB report, Frida, you got off without, I'm sorry, who was last? Scott got off without having a meeting, but Andy, lucky you, they are going to have a meeting. What did Andy, but it's virtual, so you're going to have to boot your computer twice in 1 month. Hopefully your finger won't get cramps doing so. You can,
Nice.
And what day is it, or when should I be?
It's this coming Monday. I sent you, since you have your computer up, I sent you an email this morning with the agenda that I got from Jill Porter, who's their liaison, and you can just open that. There's a link in there. If you have a problem, let me know, but you can just sit and listen.
It's bound to be easier than finding the physical meeting.
Yes, probably is. It probably is. Although if you go to the Anne Arundel County webpage and you Google Maritime Industry Advisory Board, it takes you to their page and pretty quickly. That's the way I get to it.
Yeah. Otherwise, I drive around the parking lot about 20 times.
Yeah, I think they're going to be. I think they're virtual, or you can log in virtually. But yeah, they're in the building. They're in the same building with the Office of Law. They meet in that conference room, I think. All right.
You've got Beth on now.
Beth. She's still connecting to audio, and we have Beth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Or at least I do.
Oh my goodness.
Beth is cloned.
Huh.
So, Beth, are you connected? No. All right, we'll go to Stephen.
Thank you. Of course, we stay busy in economic development. The citywide commercial vacancy rate for May was 6.2%. There were 3 new businesses that opened in the city. 1 business expanded. Our economic development team provided assistance to 21 businesses and partners during the month. We had 1 ribbon cutting for Dunkin' Donuts on Fairfax Road. That was on May 4th. We also had, we sponsored with the Small Business Administration Baltimore office and some other organizations, a speed lending event at the Pip Moyer Recreation Center. This is kind of like speed dating, but you have bankers and business owners, and they move from table to table to see if they can marry business financing needs with financial products that are available. We also hosted a group of officials that came via bus from the city of Frederick on May 20. They toured downtown and got a briefing on the Hillman Garage and City Dock projects. This group, well, more importantly, the city of Frederick is looking into a large garage project. So they wanted to get best practices from us as they contemplate what to do there. So then on May 28th, well, from May 28th through May 31st, I was actually in Hampton, Virginia as part of the Chesapeake Bay Gateway Project conference. And this is an attempt to highlight destinations across the Bay and spur tourism related economic activity. So I will stop there.
The, if I remember from last month, the vacancy rate was in the 5s. Is there any significance to the fact that it went up into the 6s?
I don't believe so.
And so, and the Gateway project, I had understood that, is this the National Park Service project?
Yes.
And are they looking to do multiple gateways to the Chesapeake? Because I know they talked about Annapolis as a gateway, and I didn't, but maybe they're looking at multiple gateways.
So yes and yes. They're looking at Annapolis as a gateway, and they're also looking at other destinations around the Bay. There were folks from Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Maryland that were at the conference, and they're definitely looking at multiple locations.
All right. Is there a timeline on, or anything substantive came out of that other than everybody got to see each other?
Well, yeah, it was. I guess the substantive part was it gave the National Park Service an opportunity to talk about the project and to promote the project. There's also, there was an opportunity for, I guess, us, those who came from Annapolis, to learn and take the information back to the city. And ultimately, as I understand it, there will likely be multiple sites within the city that will be part of this Gateway initiative.
Okay. Well, we'll just wait and get more information as it comes out. Has there been any change from the earlier report on the annual reports?
No change from the report we submitted to the Planning Commission and to this group. We're definitely pursuing the information from 2023. So that is ongoing.
And we have with us, we have before us this evening, 01224, which we'll take up in a few minutes. It really updates something that's already in the code to some extent. But we'll take that up when we get to new business. Beth, are you online? You hear us? And can you turn on your microphone? So for whatever reason, and we just went through it again with Kimberly helping, the Harbor Master report does not appear in my, or at least some of the other members' Google Docs document shared with me files. It may be a question of access. It may be a question of emails. Frida seems to be the only one that gets it. So we
I
need
got
to
one.
get that. Oh,
I got
Duncan got it.
Yeah.
You got it?
Yep.
So we need to get that solved one way or another. So whether it's an access issue or what, I don't know, but all of the members should be able to get it. Your lips are moving, but there's no sound. Now you're showing is muted. All right, so tell you what, can you just call me offline tomorrow? Well, nod your head or do something because we can't hear you.
Maybe she can call in by telephone.
Well, it'd probably be easier just to solve this if she can just give me a call tomorrow. And then I'll just make sure everybody gets on the Google Docs, has access.
Yeah.
And get that
It's pretty
sorted out.
full report.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it is not in my Google Docs, period. I mean,
Can it just be sent as a PDF?
well, it would make a lot of sense as a PDF, but it apparently doesn't seem to be the way to do it.
I mean, if it's okay with you guys, I could probably print it to PDF and send it right now through your chat or something like that.
That'd be great.
Let's see what I can do.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll defer. Let's see, Alan is not here and Scott is not here, so we'll skip item. All right, there's a lot of echo. So we'll defer the recognition program. I don't have any more information that on the pump out infrastructure than what we had before, and with Beth not able to get on and at least be heard, can't get an update there.
Terry, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So backtracking, I'm sorry everyone hasn't seen the document. I did see that I got a request from Jake and then I gave him access. Jake, do you now have access?
Who was that
I
question to?
do. I do, and I'm trying to make it into a PDF right now, so hopefully
Yeah.
I can do that.
I got it made into a PDF already, Jake. I just need to figure out how to send it because I
Well,
don't seem to have a chat box.
look,
So moving forward, I don't mind doing the PDF. I guess I was trying to be an idealist. And I was thinking like if everyone had real-time access, when I made changes, they could see them. But I guess this is more challenging than I expected. So moving forward, I will always do a PDF and I will send it the day of. So I'm sorry for the challenges. That's what I will do moving forward.
well, and that actually makes more sense because if Kimberly is going to attach it as part of the minutes or make it reference to the minutes, we need a finite document and not just a series of updates. So
Okay.
if that would be a lot easier for everybody if you just, I mean, people can update it and we'll see the updates when we get the PDF at the end of on the day of or the day before, and that would be great.
All right, decision made. I will make sure that happens in the future.
Okay, thank you. Any more information on the pump out infrastructure?
I do not have an update on that.
Okay, this is going to be a short meeting. The comp plan is meandering through city council. I think they got an extension from the state. Stephen, you may know the update on that, but I think I saw that they got permission to not take action or approve it or amend it or whatever they're going to do until perhaps September, October. I saw an extension request go in. I assume that was probably granted. So I don't have any update on that. Beth, on the next item, which is your comments earlier from last month on the Harbor Master office layout. I did speak a couple of times with Tyler, and then he let me know that the architect or whoever was working on that layout was making some changes, and he was going to get back to me when he had those changes, send me a copy of those changes, and then he and I would meet, or at least meet over Zoom for our earlier conversation, but I haven't seen anything yet. So I'm assuming that the architect has not made those revisions yet.
So there's a 2-page document that is at the beginning of the document that's shared with everyone, which I will now send as a PDF, and maybe Andy can help me. And it was the document that basically said, here's our needs. Here's what it looks like. Here's what we need. And the team did meet with the contractors while I was out of town, and I did get a brief on that. And I'm understanding, so our concern is that the original plans are not at all what we would need. In fact, they were our office at the back of the building with no view of the water. So Jackie Godd's been a really good proponent for us, and they met with them while I was out of town, and there was a revision to the plans, but I don't have like a diagram. It was just a conversation as far as I know. And so I'm understanding that we're going to have some new deliverable that will show something new, but I don't have it yet. But what I've delivered to this team is what our like needs were. And I put the things in bold that were the big things, like we definitely, like, these are sort of wants and these are definite needs. So I put some things in bold on that first 2 pages, and maybe Duncan can see what I'm talking
I
about
sure
there.
can. Also, Beth, I have just emailed everyone that PDF version of that. So if you guys want to check your emails, it should be there.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
So I guess at this point, until the architect, designer, whoever it is, gets back with the new layout, it's probably premature for us to do much other than take note of your highlights. And I'm looking, looks like I got it. Duncan, thank you.
Yep.
Kimberly, I will forward it to you. You got it, didn't you, Kimberly?
Yes, sir, I did. I had mine in my Google Drive.
And do you have the Harbor Master Office needs
I
is
do.
first? Okay,
Yes.
I just want to make sure you got the right version. Okay. So I think we'll essentially, this will just come back up at the July meeting once we get a drawing sketch and see where that fits in with the 2-page wishes and wants and needs that Beth just shared with us. And that will be, now if everybody wants to take a minute and look at that report and see if there's any questions for Beth, we can certainly do that. Where did there it is.
All sound pretty reasonable requests.
So next item, which is the status of street and park upgrades. I'm going to circulate, and because I just got it late tonight and I wasn't going to burden everybody with the 35 pages or whatever it was, 70 pages. I just got a draft report called City of Annapolis Equitable Public Water Access Plan. And there's a lot of statistics and things in there, but it's only in a draft form, and I'll circulate it to everybody. Apparently there's going to be 2 meetings, but there's a table in there that list all sorts of what they call opportunity sites, Severn River opportunity sites for new and improved public water access, Weems Creek sites, College Creek opportunity sites, Spa Creek opportunity sites, and I'm assuming that somewhere in here, if I get farther into it, there's a Back Creek opportunity sites. And it basically, I'm sorry, and then there's Broad Creek opportunity sites. So there was and Church Creek and Crab Creek. So there's a whole matrix of opportunity sites and information that is being developed for public water access. And I'm assuming once it gets into a more final form, we'll get it that to make comments on because it's a variety of things for a variety of accesses that I have not even had a chance to look at other than what I just said to everyone, but I will circulate it and it'll be on the agenda for next month's meeting.
Harry, do you know if this is a subset of the report that came out, gosh, was it a couple of years ago, about access to public access? As it was part of, and now I can't remember, a state effort or the effort to
Well,
identify.
I think it emanated, and I'm going to look and see if they say something about it. It seems like it starts out by saying the city of Annapolis has partnered with the National Park Service, Chesapeake Gateway's office, and the Department of Transportation to develop this equitable public water access plan. And it looks like it also sort of came out of the city dock plan where water access was a major topic during that endeavor. So it appears to be somewhat of a culmination of a variety of efforts. We've talked about this in small bits and pieces in terms of just the street end parks and things like that, but it's going to dovetail. Almost every one of the street end facilities or parks or access points are mentioned in here. Beth, I don't know if your office has been involved in this study yet. I'm assuming there'll be a lot of input from your office only because every time there's access to the water from one of those street ends or anywhere, it's going to impact your office. So one would hope.
I've seen this specific study. I mean, we've had tons of meetings and conversations, but I don't know if I've seen a particular study.
It literally just came out today that I saw. It looks like that.
It's new.
Yeah, I think it was just I got a note about it this afternoon, so it looks like it just got uploaded.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
All right, actually, that brings us to our new business. I sent everybody a copy of 012 24, the Maritime Industry Development Fund. Interestingly enough, that when the Maritime Advisory Board was created back in, I don't know, 1990, 1988, included in that legislation was a provision that the Maritime Advisory Board would administer the what would they call it, the Maritime Industry Economic Development Program. That was never funded. Ellen Moyer, back when I think she was alderman at the time, or alderwoman at the time, included it with the expectation that there would be funding, but it never was funded. But that legislation has continued in the code. When the revisions were made to the maritime zones, and a provision was made that there would be a contribution to a fund for basically if you have certain non-maritime uses. This appears to be the mechanism that is going to be used to fund that. This fund already exists, and it would be the recipient of those contributions. I think Debbie might take issue with whether they're contributions or not, but
Tax.
tax. So I didn't see anything particularly different other than it just making reference to the fees and from Title 21, and that the Maritime Advisory Board fund, so to speak, would be we would, among other things, provide advice to the city concerning the administration of that fund.
Terry, I have a question about the part that says Title 21 Planning and Zoning.
Yes.
there's 3 section E's there. One is 21.46010, and then there's 21.64520, and then 21.64550. In the first one, 21.46010, it says if there is an increase in non-maritime uses granted through the above incentives, a fee established by resolution, blah, 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 shall be assessed to the property owner.
Right.
Right. So that's what I have understood from that zoning effort that went through a couple of years ago. But then the next 2 section E's, they're both the same wording, but one has a title, professional offices, and the second one has a title, retail sales of non-maritime related goods. Is it normal to use exactly the same language in the paragraph when you have different titles? And does that mean that if you are WMI, for example, you have to pay for non-maritime use whether or not you have used the incentive?
Well, let me back up. First of all, the changes in 21.46.010 and the changes in 21.64.520 and the changes in 21.64.550 are only those items that are underlined.
In red, yeah, okay.
So and that is simply ties those fees that are going to be, that are applicable under those provisions back to section 6.30010, which is the Maritime Advisory Board, or the provisions that, in terms of the application of the fees, I'm reluctant to
Without the whole
opine
code
on
there.
that, because all 3 of these section E's are simply out of context of the rest of the statute.
Okay,
But there's no substantive changes to those 3 subsection E's from what already exists. The only change is the addition of the reference to the name Annapolis Maritime Industry Economic Development Fund per section 6.330.010.
I'll just have to go back and look at A through D on
Right.
those.
Right. But they haven't changed the fee structure, or they haven't changed the structure of those fees and their applicability in this ordinance.
So the fees are still intended to be assessed or requested if you take advantage of the incentives, right?
That's my understanding. And or if, and I'm not sure that it's the first section 21.46.010 says if there's an increase in non-maritime uses granted through the incentives, a fee is charged. But also that if you have professional offices or if you have retail sales of non-maritime related goods that came about not result of an incentive,
You're going to get a hit.
it appears that it applies to those specific uses.
Yeah, I don't recall that being part of the zoning, but it's been a couple of years.
It has been, and there was a lot in that 025. So, but I think you're correct that you need to go back and see what the context of the subparagraphs are in each of those 3 provisions.
Yeah.
They're not affected by this ordinance. So let me just first of all ask, is there any discussion before we, in terms or questions about what this is doing, other than simply renaming the fund to the Maritime Industry Economic Development Fund, but it's the same fund that's already in our the statute for the Maritime Advisory Board. Hearing none, is there a motion to recommend favorably 01224? Don't all jump in at once. Is there a motion to recommend unfavorably 012, whatever it is, 24? Do we have, is there a
Mighty
motion?
quiet.
Is there?
I'll move that. I move to unfavorably recommend this 01224.
All right, and first of all, and the reason being,
How long do you have? I just think there's a question on enforcement and giving, different offices duties when they're already overwhelmed as they are. And I could go on and on, but no, I think this is poorly written and not a good time for this.
all right, other discussion?
I never thought that the fund was a good idea in the first place, and I had planned to abstain because I don't think that it's really going to help the maritime industry, and I see it as a contribution.
But just so where everybody is clear, and for everybody that's listening also, this is not establishing the fees. This is renaming an existing fund.
So call it a protest vote then, Terry.
Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, we're gonna vote, we're gonna vote whichever way it goes. I just want to be absolutely clear, not just to the board, to anybody that's listening who may not have a copy of the statute, that the statute is not addressing the merits or lack of merit on the fees themselves. It is simply renaming the name of the fund that exists already in the Maritime Advisory Board legislation. So with that, Mike, you have a comment?
Yeah, so the way I read it when I read it this afternoon and also earlier was, this is something that was established long ago. It was
1988.
it was kind of retreaded when we did the zoning task force a couple of years ago as a potentially good idea. It has never been funded over the past 30 some odd years.
Correct.
And this is basically trying to bring the language from the original statute up to what we discussed when we did the rezoning. Is that correct?
That, in a nutshell, is my understanding also, and by doing so, and the mechanism for doing that is renaming the fund.
Right.
So, quick question.
And cleaning up some of the language. So
Right.
in reality, this doesn't move the tax, if you will, any further forward in the cart. It just is basically saying, this is something that we thought was a good idea. It came up again when we discussed it as part of the task force. And, if we're ever going to do anything with it, we have to have it correct per code. Is that right?
Essentially correct. Duncan?
Rita, is your objection that if this is renamed, it may become real? Is that your point?
Can you repeat that, Duncan, please?
Yeah, I'm just asking if your objection is that if we go ahead with the renaming, it might become real. In other words, it might really be enacted.
That's part of it. But
Okay.
I also feel like this is going to open up a whole can of worms. There's obviously some motivation behind this that's, not clear to me. And I just don't have a good feeling about it. Sorry.
So, Frida, in the whereas clauses, the ordinance sets out that basically what the purpose of this was or is, and it recites that it was in 88, it was adopted as one of the board's duties to the administration of the Maritime Industry Economic Development Fund is created by Ordinance 5188. And then it goes on and says the City Council has adopted legislation creating new fees that are to go into the fund authorized by 0588. And the current City Council seeks to implement the Economic Development Fund and override the outdated fund created criteria adopted in 89. So those are the whereas clauses that recite what the intent of this is. But again, I'm not going to, the motion on the table, the motion on the floor right now is to recommend unfavorably. Is there any more discussion?
Yeah, this is Rick Nelson. It seems to me that I would actually propose that it go forward because it doesn't seem like it's doing much of anything. This debate about whether the fund should exist or not should be a fuller discussion. So I wouldn't hold it up, if you will, on a technicality of renaming the fund. I'd rather hear the debate about if the fund should go ahead and the tax be applied. So
Anybody else? All right, on the
Okay, so
motion,
do we have a motion and a second on?
I was about to get to the fact that I don't believe we have a motion. Is there a second to recommend unfavorably?
No,
Second.
but I'll-
Okay. Debbie's recommended, seconded. We've had, is there any further discussion?
I'd just like to see it go back and be rethought, the whole thing. And I understand that this is just a technical change to try to correct it, but if you're correcting something that's a flawed concept from the start, is that really the right thing to do to push it forward?
Any other discussion? Duncan?
Yeah, last question. What is going to happen if we do not recommend this or enact this?
The council is going to enact it. If I was a betting person, the council is going to enact it in about 30 seconds.
Really?
They're renaming an existing fund.
Yeah.
What are they going to waste? Why are they going to waste time on it?
Yeah.
But again, I mean, I'm just one vote. I don't see personally. I don't see holding it up. It's a technical amendment to a fund that exists that we quote administer already, even though there's no money in it. But I'm only one vote, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on a motion to recommend unfavorably? All right, all in favor to recommend unfavorably?
Aye.
Kimberly, that's 2. Ms. Wildy and Ms. Goslin are recommending unfavorably. All of those opposed to recommending unfavorably. And we have 4 recommending Mr. Nelson, Lomax, Hood, and Thomasini opposed, recommending unfavorably. Now to flip the script, is there a motion to recommend favorably?
Rick made that.
Go ahead, Rick, and I'll second.
I'm sorry, Mike. I mean,
I'll recommend favorably. Motion to recommend favorably.
Is there a second? I'll second that. Any more discussion? We're beating an administrative issue to death. All right, all in favor of recommending favorably?
Aye.
All right, that's 4. Kimberly, same 4, and all opposed. Those opposed are Ms. Goslin and Ms. Wildy. All right, so it is, we would recommend favorably by a vote of 4-2 with the comments on the record as noted. And Kimberly will put those in the minutes. All right, anything else? That was the last of the new business. Anything else that we need to take up?
Yeah, just I had a question that one item in Beth's report where the port wardens voted against recommendation before them. Can you elaborate on why the port wardens voted against this?
What was the recommendation, Rick?
I think it was a street end park, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It was
Tucker Street.
oh,
Was it Tucker Street?
It might have been. Let me just go over there.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to pull that up too.
It was Tucker Street, yes.
Yeah, so I just saw this and I don't know why that happened.
What was the proposal that was before the port wardens? Was it for the floating dock?
I'm not sure. I just saw this and I didn't have any details and no one sent this to me, so I couldn't elaborate on that.
Yeah, it says here that there was an issue about whether there was access on either side of the ramp. Anyway, it's presented to the port wardens on May 28th and project was denied, and DPW is summoning a motion for reconsideration. So
I mean, what I would say is probably DPW will go back to the drawing board and present something that's minorly changed to make it all work. So I don't think it's a big deal, but I don't know because this is new news. This is new news for me, so I don't know.
Who would have represented the city at the port wardens?
Um,
Could have been somebody from Public Works?
It would be, just everybody bear with me 1 minute, and I think might be able to enlighten that if I just get to something here.
Is the question which planning and zoning staff person represented the city in that meeting?
That'll do for starters.
Yes.
That's the urban forester, Brian Adams.
Got it.
The urban forester took over from Kevin Scott.
That's correct.
I don't remember a lot of trees in the water.
Bayou.
There you go. So port wardens. Not always the easiest thing to, here we go. No, where is? Where are the agendas? Agendas and minutes, there we go. Port wardens. What was the date of that meeting, Rick? Was it May something?
May 28th, I believe.
Okay. So what was on the agenda that they addressed is they were considering the construction of a 48-foot by 6-foot floating pier with an 18 by 6-foot L-shaped head, as well as a 15-foot by 5-foot ADA compliant kayak launch and a 55-foot by 22-foot concrete boat ramp with a boulder flank wall to replace the current failing GeoGrid boat ramp. Now, to me, knowing Tucker Street, that sounds like putting an awful lot of stuff into Tucker Street.
That's a pretty small area.
But not having looked at a plan, it may well be that it worked. But that was, Rick, that was what was before them at the time. So my guess is there was probably some discussion about how all that's going to work together, since there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, I guess I'm just surprised it wasn't tabled then as opposed to voted down and then them requesting reconsideration. So, but anyway, that's Port Warden's business.
Right.
And maybe Beth, just one other question. The stray electrical current at Truxton, Park,
Right.
is feeling that it's actually been identified and the remediation is not correct, or that the source of the electrical current hasn't even been identified? Because I see, as it was said, that the city has not accepted that report as final.
So what I saw did not say that it identified all the sources. And they also said they couldn't say that their study is representative of the boating season. So they did all of their data collection, I don't know, from like to April.
Yeah.
And so when I asked them, okay, would this be representative from April to August? They said, well, no, maybe not. And so I reached back out to them, meeting coming up on Thursday, because what their scope of work says is you have to tell the city exactly what is advised, what is ill-advised. So what activities are safe and what activities are not safe, and is there any remediation that could change that? So knowing what I know, I think that the outcome will be that there will not be any swimming there ever again. And they're, as a contractor, based on liabilities, they're going to say, we will not advise that anyone could launch any kind of craft where it would be obvious that you could fall overboard. So a stand-up paddleboard, for example, it's obvious that you could fall overboard. But I don't know that for sure. And Thursday's meeting will be good. And then they have to present to council. So we're looking forward to some more data.
Have there
Yeah.
been,
That
There
would
been-
say that would be a very bad outcome for what is kind of a access point for kind of lower income people.
Missed the start of what you said.
Oh, I'm just saying that that would not be a very good outcome, I don't think, if basically small boat craft and people swimming would not be allowed at kind of the place that's most accessible by people that don't have money in Annapolis.
I think it's really hard news, and I think it's been tough for everybody. But I think like the data, I think it's not new that this was unsafe. I think the information that it's unsafe is new.
Okay.
But so I think definitely it's not been safe to swim around marinas for a very long time, but no one knew that. So, I mean, if I'm being very honest, there have been many drownings near marinas where people said, oh, he was a really strong swimmer. We don't know why he died. And these were never found out autopsy because that's not what that reveals. And having gone to several conferences where parents of these children have died, they're saying like, this is kind of new information, and you can't swim near marinas. You cannot do it anymore. And I know it's not good information. No one wants to know it, but I don't think it's going to change.
But Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, but are there pedestals, electric, I mean, I'm mumbling here. Is the Truxton ramp portions in the water, or do they have electricity running out to them?
There's several. So I think the definition of swimming near a marina is any marina that has more than 3 electrical outlets. And so even if we pulled all of our boats out, there's still Spa Creek Marina to our right, and there's like right in front of us. So there's really nothing that anyone could reasonably do to mitigate this, in my opinion, to change the risk.
so Beth, if you can't even put a kayak or a paddleboard in at Truxton Park, why can you put them in at any street end park in the city?
Well, I think if you ask electrical engineer, marine electrical engineer, they would say, if it's not a marina as defined by more than 3 electrical outlets, I think, like Amos Garrett, for example, I don't think that there's that kind of electricity there.
But 4th Street, for example, at the end of Burnside, there's marina there. If you're at the end of 1st Street, you've got SSA on one side and the condos marina on the other side. So you're taking, to Debbie's point, any street in that abuts any kind of a community marina, or frankly, a private dock that has 3 electrical outlets on it, would not be amenable to, or would not allow launching of a kayak or paddleboard or whatever the definition of you might fall overboard from.
Certainly
Well-
another not to have them at City Dock.
Well, that's true.
So I think that there's something for the lawyers to mitigate here, to like talk to us about, because swimming and launching a watercraft is different, right? And so it's not for me to say it's unsafe to swim or it's unsafe to launch a paddlecraft. I only attended the classes, and I can tell this group that you should look at this website called electricshockdrowning.org. So I couldn't say that it's safe or unsafe to launch a paddlecraft or a kayak. I mean, that's for the city to decide. But
Is the city allowing paddle boards to go from Truxton Park now?
what I would say is they're putting up warning signs.
Mhm.
But Beth, is it always followed that if you have 3 pedestals or more, that there's stray electrical currents in a marina, or is it that there's either some other source, or that they're not well maintained, and therefore there's stray electrical currents? Because I mean, you have people that might paddle out from Ellen Moyer Park and paddle past, the marinas in Back Creek, for example. So, is Truxton Park an exception, or is this always the case? And does it always come from the pedestals?
Unfortunately, it's more complicated than that, because electricity also comes from boats. So I think that it would probably behoove this group to allow someone to give a presentation
Yes.
about electric shock drowning, because I can't do it justice. And so electricity can come from boats, it can come from marinas, and I'm not the person to give this information out. But I do know, like, I've listened to multiple parents whose children have died, who have tried to say, like, hey, this is new information and you need to pay attention, and this is why you can't swim or you can't launch paddlecraft in this area. So I'm not sure where to go with this information. I do think we should probably ask for this group or some of these people to give a presentation to probably
So
this.
when the report comes out and is official, you may just make sure that the board gets a copy, and then it'll have the name of the author, and we can invite the author to come come to one of our meetings virtually.
Yeah, that's good.
Andy,
Yes.
any thoughts on this?
The problem is substantially more intense in fresh water. Brackish water dissipates electricity way quicker than fresh water does. In salt water, it's almost not an issue. You can have an electrical wire dangling in salt water and you can't feel it more than 6 or 8 feet away. In fresh water, 6 or 8 feet away, and it could kill you. So it's a big difference. We are in an area that is halfway in between, and I'm not going to weigh in too much on the situation, but I know a ton of people who have been tingled by current in the water, and I don't know if anybody has been injured by it.
But Andy, that also brings up the interesting irony about the Chesapeake Bay is you have a rainy spring and you got more fresh water, and you got a less rainy season, you have more brackish water or more salty water.
Yeah.
So it's
I
not
don't
even,
think-
it's not even a fixed number.
True, but it's not as much of a situation in this area as it is in a lake.
Okay. Duncan, you were about to say
Yeah,
something.
one of the bullet points in the Truxton Park report is the contractor will provide evaluation of the sources of electrical current and possible ways to remediate or correct. And Beth, if you're going into a meeting with them on Thursday, I think this is a pretty good place to stress that as well. I don't know if much can be done to remediate, but I don't think it should be brushed under the table just by hitting a blanket. Nobody can do this or do that. Can we fix the situation to some extent is all I'm asking you to ask them.
Yeah, so I've had these discussions at conference, and what they have said is there is a thing that you can put in the water that will have, for example, a green light when you can swim, because it's all the time reading this current. And what I'm told is it's not a valid way to gauge this,
Yeah,
because what I am told is if the green light is on and you swim, it can change periodically, and it's not. So what I'm told is there is no real remediation.
I see.
But Duncan's point was, I hope, that the report is supposed to identify the source of the issue and make remediation recommendations. Have they made any findings as to the source?
I think there are so many sources that they have not. I could reread the report. I could certainly forward it, but
Well, I think Duncan's point was, could you ask them in their meeting specifically, is there an identifiable source? And if so, what is the remediation of that? And Duncan, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
No, that's exactly right.
I mean, I
And-
have that question. I have sent them a bulleted list of questions, and that question was in that list.
Okay.
But I think because I don't think we're gonna get the answers that we want, but I'll try again.
Yeah,
Well,
because I think what would be interesting is they could say there were multiple sources and therefore didn't try to identify any one or its particular strength. I mean, at an extreme, you would go through and shut down a variety of sources
I
and
think
then
you're right, Rich.
add
I
them
think
back
you're right.
on one by one and see what's actually happening.
And-
So I'd be interested in seeing the report, and not that that's an easy process to go through, but really how thorough it was.
I mean, I think that has happened even when the city was investigating this. And I don't think that every single source was identified, particularly when there were boats in the area and the boats were emitting electricity. So, I'll try to give a more comprehensive list of questions tomorrow for our Thursday meeting. But this has been a very frustrating process for the last 3 years.
Yeah,
Oh.
wow.
I'm not surprised. Hey, Andy, is this a 120 volt problem, or is it a 120 and a 12 volt problem, DC/AC? I mean, what is the danger here? I don't quite understand what type of electricity is a problem.
It's not DC. DC represents different problems.
Well, I
But
asked that
AC
because I hear the comment that boats are causing this, and I wonder how that boat is doing that.
Yeah.
Well, a super poorly wired boat can put AC power into the water,
Right.
but it's totally detrimental to the boat. It won't be doing it for long before all its underwater metals fall off.
Mhm.
Same with docks. If a dock is totally miswired, the bolts and screws that hold the thing together will just disintegrate. And 3 years ago, people were feeling current in the water around Truxton Park. I haven't heard whether anyone's felt any current in the water around there since then. there's no way that you can even ramp launch boats without people getting, into the water up to their knees at least.
Mhm.
It
Agreed.
happens. Not everybody gets wet, but a lot of people do. And there's got to be a workaround for this that works, because electricity is around water and people are around water and people are in contact with the water.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's really fair. I think what the city will struggle with is like, who's going to stick their neck out and say, this activity is safe and this activity is not safe. And that's what the city's looking for. And I don't know if this contractor's scope of work required them to do that. And I don't know, like, if I'm the contractor, maybe I'm going to say everything's unsafe because it behooves me.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's where we're kind of stuck because we need a common sense answer. And I don't know if the contractor's going to do that because of their liability.
I would bet a lot of money on the fact that they're not going to go out and stick their neck out and say it is safe.
Agreed.
Agreed.
But
I don't.
and I'll just have one final comment. And to Debbie's point, if the city sticks its neck out and says it's unsafe, then you essentially are saying and that it's unsafe because it is inherently unsafe if you have 3 plugs within X number of feet or whatever the criteria is, that has ramifications throughout the city.
Yes, it does.
And that's a total arbitrary thing. 3 outlets is much safer than 4 outlets.
Well, exactly. And 4 outlets are much safer than a 50 slip marina with 50 outlets. So, all right.
Boy, you're gonna tell me we shouldn't be drinking this water.
One other last comment. All marinas are upgrading to GCLI type circuit breakers for the individual slip outlets. And they're required whenever they do any major rehab work. I bet about half the marinas in Annapolis have upgraded, and the other half know that it's in their future. That is a quantifiable safety upgrade that will help. And
Yeah.
I think you're going to find much more likeliness of problems on private docks where people haven't touched or upgraded the electrics in decades.
In years, yeah.
But
Yeah.
so
About how far does this electrical current extend from a source?
yeah.
That's a great question.
Thank you.
It depends on how much current we're talking about and
That's a
how
good
direct
answer.
it is to the water. Current's not supposed to be getting in the water. It's supposed to return on the white wire. And if it's got the green wire as a backup, as a second safety device to ground things. And if all that's working properly, no current should be going into the water. Admittedly, every single dock everywhere has a ground cable and a spike in the ground very near the foot of the dock. That is the ground point for that dock. And that's very near the water. And can it induce current? Probably it can. Should it be inducing current? No, it should not. And how much is too much? In fresh water, a little bit is way too much. In salt water, it's a whole different game. So I see both sides of it thoroughly, but I don't think no one's going to come up with an answer here.
Yeah.
Mike,
All right,
Yeah.
so I don't want
Mike,
to beat it to death,
Mike.
but Beth, to my knowledge and in the discussions that I've been a party to, the people who initially reported the current were in the vicinity of the dock at Truxton Park, not the boat ramp. They were in the water and rescuing themselves either onto the dock or holding onto the dock that houses the harbor master's boats when they felt the current. Those were the initial reports. Is that right?
I couldn't say that. I would say that they were children. All I knew is that they were children swimming. And they said that their fingers were hurting. And that's all I know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Where.
All right. So what I had heard was that those swimming children were part of a group of paddleboarders with a supervisor, and they were swimming and they felt the electric current when they touched the dock, when they reached their fingers out and touched the dock. And then there haven't been significant reports from people who are swimming there now that they're experiencing electroshock. Is that right?
Well, there haven't been swimming, but I would say, I think if Andy were to look at the data that came from the city and the data that came from the new contractor, they would have a lot more to say, but I couldn't discern what that data means.
Well, it seems to me we just need to, take a look at the report, give it to Andy, and Andy can make a report on the report.
I
Yeah.
agree.
And I think we need to hold this contractor to a higher level. The way I look at it is there's something leaking into the water. In this case, it's electrical current. If it were drops of oil at an ounce an hour creating a
Oh my
slip
God.
in Buxton
It'd be
Park,
crazy.
we,
Yeah.
we would be digging to find the source of this problem.
I know
And-
you're prepared, Andy, but I wonder if I could ask you to be a party to this Thursday conversation.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll send you an invite because you're gonna know more than I know.
That's a good idea, and I think that's a great idea.
I
Thank
think-
you.
Yeah. I
You know,
think
we-
Mike's point is valid. If I could, I'll just let it go at that. Mike's point is valid. If it were oil, the world would blow up. So where's it coming from? That's all I want to know.
All right, anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn? Ms. Goslin, Mr. Hood is seconded, all in favor? Everybody have a good evening. Kimberly, thanks for all your help with helping me figure out Google Docs. I'm gonna see if I can remember it now, and I'll look for a PDF.